Welcome to Connect. I am your host Kevin, and today we welcome Keith, better known as RoarHideGoods from Canada.
Hello, man. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm very good. First of all, I just want to wish you happy 2021 for tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Could you tell me a little bit like how 2020 was for you? Like how happened with COVID and stuff like that?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, we ended up moving. We live in Alberta here in Canada, and we live in a rural area. We moved into the city just near Edmonton last December.
Okay.
We were excited because we moved here and we have lots of friends that are in the area and close by. And then, of course, 2 months after we moved to Edmonton, COVID happened, and it's been strange because we moved to this huge area, this big city with tons of people, and then at the same time, it feels just as isolated as when we lived in the rural farming community kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Like Canada itself is already, in my opinion, I'm not aware of it, but I think Canada is pretty remote. You know, you have a lot of forest area, a lot of rural environments. So if you make the change to bigger cities, of course, it's a whole different experience, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Canada's mostly undeveloped wilderness, just lots of empty highways, and I kind of like that. But
yeah, actually, I've seen a lot of leathercrafters from Canada. Actually, it's funny. Like most of them are either from America or Canada, so it's pretty typical, you know.
Yeah,
and you know, I've seen that you started since 2019, if I'm correct. Well, your Instagram page starts from there.
That's when I started the Instagram, but I probably started doing leather work in 2016-ish.
Oh, okay.
Like very, very early 2016. My wife bought me some of the basic tools from Tandy.
Yeah.
Like the cheaper awl and like just a square foot panel of leather, and then that's kind of where it started.
And from there, you got lost in the passion.
Yeah, the obsession.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So you started doing it like out of a hobby, I guess, out of some interest you had in it.
Yeah, I never started with the business aspect in mind. Like I'd never thought with the perspective of maybe this is something that I can use to help support my family, or down the road that would be feasible as a business. And because I'm a hunter and fisherman,
Cool.
So the initial goal had been to just make some of my own leather goods for belts, rifle slings, any cases I needed or anything like that. And
for your own stuff, actually,
yeah, it was mostly just for me because I'm by nature I love to do things with my hands.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I grew up playing with like Lego and anything else that I could put things.
I was a car mechanic before I started discovering leathercrafting. So everything with the hands, it comes natural to me.
And leather is very procedural, right? Like everything, there's a process for everything. Even of the best leather workers, they have great designs, but they still follow a process. So
exactly, and I do kind of like that it's more of a how we say higher value. You know, like if you make the leather goods, it's like really it gives an extra touch to it. You know, it's not just making something and move on. You know, the thing with my previous job I didn't like was that, you know, one car comes in, you fix it, boom, next car. You know, you don't really have the appreciation of your work. You know.
Yeah, as a mechanic, you're either a good one or you're a bad one.
Exactly.
there's no
most of
really
the people,
good mechanics.
Most of the people, they don't like you anyway because there's always something going on with the car. You know? So
no one wants to get their cars fixed. But if you have someone, I've seen some of your wallets; they're very nice. And if your notebook covers and things, and people are seeking you out for that, that's money that they want to spend.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to repair their car.
Exactly. Yeah. And they want it, or they do want it, but as cheap as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, like I kind of started, let's say 6 months ago. I discovered it just by accident. I was doing a trip in Mexico, and Mexico is more leather boots and a little bit more the American style, and I just kind of started doing it as well, just like you, to make
Mexico.
Make like a phone cover or something, and I kind of fell in love with it. And it's funny because normally I'm not really into the details, but I must say, by doing it like now for 6 months, I do believe, like, it's crazy without having a study, like without having a education in it. It blows my mind how fast you can grow. I'm not sure if I have a talent for it or not, but I do see a lot of change with my first thing I made, and now, like with my last one, it's really a nice thing.
It's all about how fast you want to progress, and like, of course, the harder you try, eventually friends. If like it started with me with friends and family, like I'm a police officer by trade, by occupation. So I've worked with people that are they want good leather belts.
Yeah,
they want. People are tired of paying for things. Like, people pay good money for things that fail, that fall apart.
Yeah,
and it's just conveying to people that your product is worth the money. Like, you might pay more for mine, but it will last you for a very long time.
True.
And it's showing that to people that, like, I had a customer recently. He's like, I don't understand it, just because it was one of the first belts I made him. And I had made him something recently as well. And he was showing me his belt, and he's like, it just lasts. Like, I don't understand how it still exists. Everything's still good. And I'm like, well, that's the key.
That's the point in the whole of the thing. It's crazy that all the people, they are so used to buying mass production, made in China and Alibaba and all that.
Oh, for sure.
Bullshit in a way, and it's really nice to see that as well, the younger generation. I see them going a lot more back to traditional stuff, like quality goods.
They have such good eyes for design too. Like, seeing some of the younger, because like you talked to who was the first podcast you did?
STR Handmade.
Yeah, and I'm in the same age group. I'm 33, and
go ahead.
Sorry, seeing some of the other makers that are starting as well, and like, I'm so jealous of what some of the people in Europe are doing, where you are in Belgium, and he's in Lithuania, and some other ones. Like, you guys have my favorite designs. Like, the leathers, the color combinations, the threads, the pocket shapes. Like, you guys do such amazing work, and it's so awesome to see, like, even not just like age, because you guys talked about the dad wallet, and I just had to laugh because I knew exactly what you're talking about. And it's seeing that influence of, like, even us being millennials or whatever, like, not having cash pockets in some wallets, lots of card wallets and stuff like that. Like, just things are changing with the generations. Like, it doesn't, just because people have been making dad wallets for hundreds of years doesn't mean we need to keep making them.
Exactly. Kind of, it's good, to have the change. And I do think, like, the minimal aspect of it is a huge trend now. You see everything going, like, smaller and more convenient. And as well, I'm 31, and actually I'm now getting jealous on the even more younger generation, because I know some young kids just out of school, like, really, like, making knives and making axes, and blows my mind. Like, I told STR Handmade as well, like, when I was that age, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and
I had no idea.
Now they start to seek for the things they really love.
I became a police officer when I was 21, so that's been 12 years. So, like, I didn't have a lot of time as doing that kind of stuff, and then living in a relatively isolated rural community.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I would always say to new younger cops that got transferred to where I was, I would say, find a hobby. Find a hobby. That's why I started hunting. That's why I started fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why my wife bought me the leather tools, because I love to do stuff with my hands. And it's been, especially during the pandemic, it's been such a
Relief.
a saving thing to have this in my life. Like, even if there's a period where I don't have an order, which is never anymore, or if I don't feel like working on an order,
Mm-hmm.
I can design something new. I can work on something different, get something out of my head and get into the leather kind of thing.
It's amazing that you can, it's like such a niche market, but you know, it's so big and you can do so much with it. Even like develop more your photography or start making videos.
Yeah.
Like it's so exponential. And even like it blows my mind how creative the people are these days. Like they invent completely new designs and like blows my mind how smart they are actually.
Like you get guys like Flatlander. I forget where he is. He's overseas, or no, he's American, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he does like crazy colors, like yellows and blues and greens and all together. And I'm like, I never in a million years would have thought that those colors worked together, but you just proved to me that it did.
True.
And it's Instagram was like, I always knew photography was important, but I never really focused on it. Like I've made so many things that I wish I had photographed well, but I don't have them anymore. So if I knew how important photography was when I started, I would have paid more attention to it. But then I thought I was doing okay. And then I got an Instagram and I realized, oh, some of these people are really good leather workers and really good photographers. And they make my stuff look terrible because they're so good at photographing their work.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I used to think like on YouTube and Instagram, you know, it's all these fancy looking things, but actually it's really nice that you see like the new podcast that comes out tomorrow, Nemo RoarHideGoods as well. She explained that the community is so nice, and like even it doesn't matter if you make shitty photographs, you know, still there are going to be some people who like it and give you some support or, you know, share some ideas. And that's really amazing. You know, the community, it's even if you just started out, the guy in front of you who has 2 weeks more experience, let's say, he's already going to share some tips and ideas, you know.
Absolutely. I get messages, not all the time, but fairly often from other leather workers who might have, you know, they might have started. There's a lot of pandemic leather workers, people that started in February, March, you know, and I'll get messages and they'll ask me questions. And it's always really nice to, because I don't have any trade secrets. I don't have like anything I've learned is just from spending hours reading through guides on the internet, because everyone has a different method for burnishing, for stitching, which stitches per inch to use, which size irons, which, you know, there's so much and it gets so overwhelming and it can be something that deters you. So like if there's a newer leather worker that messages me, like I consider myself novice, like still learning something new every day. But if someone has a question, I'm always happy to help them. And Instagram's been great for that. Like it's such a good community.
It's really good because I do see you, like you say yourself, you're not like this, how you say, crazy Instagram photographer, like branding company. But I do have the feeling that you try to be a big part of the community. You know, you're always like, in my opinion, one of the first ones to like a lot of people's posts and to give some support, you know. And I think a lot of people appreciate that, you know. They come to you because they think it has some good guidance, you know.
I appreciate that, and it's been really fun to interact with so many people from around the world and to have like good conversations. And like I've sought guidance from other makers on Instagram as well, and they've been there as a resource for me. And it's just, you know, it's been a really good platform in that way for not just growth for my business, because I have still yet to get 0 sales from Instagram, but I have incredible growth as a craftsman, because I learned so much, and seeing what you and everyone else is doing always strives me to do better. And like, I've been working with Pueblo for a little while, and I wouldn't have known Pueblo existed if I didn't get on Instagram and seeing like you work with Maya often.
I started with Maya, but for me, Maya is a little bit
beautiful.
It's really beautiful, but actually now, because of a local friend here gave me an opportunity to make the notebook cover, and it was the first time I ordered Pueblo. As well, of course, I got to know it through STR Handmade and some other Instagrammers. But I must say, Maya is, for my opinion, a little bit too soft. It's a little bit too gentle. It's really like very subtle leather. Like burnishing it, the edges is really. I kind of need a little bit more tougher leather, Like Butero,
you can crush those edges, and you crush them, and they fold over, and it becomes a whole other problem.
But it's good, because you just talk to some people who do it, and actually I had no idea where I would get my leather. Of course, I know America has Tandy leather and some really famous suppliers, but Europe is a little bit more. You just have belt production, Croatia, and then Rikov. Those are the only two. But as well, I got to know them through Instagram. So
yeah, we're fortunate that we have some really good suppliers in North America, but I'm so jealous that, like, I've said to my wife more than once, if we ever had to leave Canada, we are moving to Italy. I don't care. That's where we're going, because like, just the variety. Like, I work mostly, my belts are Herman Oak and Wicket and Craig, which are phenomenal bridal leathers to work with. But when it comes to finer leather goods, when you're getting into wallets and notebook covers and things like that, that's where Italy and so there's even some other tanneries in Europe where they really shine, because you don't get that variety. I find here, everything we get is just shipped from across the ocean, which makes everything harder to get. And
America is more, let's say, famous for its rustic, like cowboy leather. Let's say. So and Italy is more, shoes and handbags and the refined stuff,
And Sheridan style carving, which I'm sure you've seen, that floral style carving. And even where I am in Alberta is very it's a cowboy industry. They have the Calgary Stampede every year. They have every little small town has rodeo grounds. They have races and stuff like that. So it's really interesting that there's that cowboy culture, but they're looking for stuff that is ornate and carved with all the floral, and that's just not my passion in leatherwork. Like, I relate more to the my goal is for the finesse and finer details. And not, because there are some incredible carvers. Like, those people should be sculptors. Their carvings are that nice, but I'm just that's not what these hands are capable of.
Exactly. You're only limited to what your hands can do, right? So
exactly.
I've seen as well, in Mexico is as well a land who's famous for like you say, the carving and the more exotic leather, I guess. But it's nice to discover. But it's important, I think, because you focus more on the belts. So it's important to, I think, as a company or a brand, whatever you want to call it, to stay a little bit to your own style, and people know you for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all I would do is, if I tried making a carved belt, all I would do is make myself look bad. And I mean, the bridal leather speaks for itself. It's a bit of a grind when you're hand stitching a fair amount of belts, but when you get used to it, it's just.
Yeah, I do remember making a belt, and I see you stitch around the whole belt, right, to keep it. And I do remember thinking to myself, it was a belt for myself, and I thought, I can't give the time of stitching the whole belt, for me, of course, it makes sense for the stiffness, but I couldn't take the time for it.
Yeah, it takes. I finally invested in, because I'm big on make do with what I have. If I have the tool that accomplishes the job, then use that and try to save some money that way. But I finally bought one of the what's it called here? The Dream Factory stitching pony.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm so excited because I can stand up and sew now.
Oh yeah, okay. That's really handy. Yeah. I remember the
when
last
you're
time
sewing-
sitting down like this with my
Oh.
back so sore, it's crazy.
It's terrible. I did a double stitched belt just recently for Christmas, and I was so happy that it was for a young girl because
Yeah.
a double stitched belt, even for a young girl, that belt still had close to 800 stitches in it, right? So
exactly, it's insane.
Yeah.
And why do you keep why do you focus on belts? You know, because you have
it's just where it I mean, I didn't really have control over that in the beginning because, like a lot of people, I had this because my first leather, like a lot of people, was just the cheaper veg tan leather, whatever I could find.
Mhm.
And because I didn't have exposure to Instagram, I didn't know what was really available.
Mhm.
So my first belts were doing well, and then there was a small men's clothing shop, and he had asked, "Would you be willing to make belts for me?" And I said, "Sure." And at the time, I was making belts for $40 a belt,
Mhm.
and I made hundreds of belts for him. Not all hand stitched, but the buckles are stitched on. Like the way I stitch my keepers on is very I think it's a traditional kind of like an English. You find more in the UK.
Yeah.
Because I learned primarily from Nigel Armitage, if you know who that is.
Doesn't ring a bell. No.
He's much larger on YouTube. He's not really on Instagram, but
Mhm.
so when I was hand dyeing all my belts because I was using double shoulders or sides, I was like, there has to be a better way than covering everything I own in dye.
Mhm.
So I spent time researching leathers, and I spent, my first couple $100 on a random side of leather from Tandy, and it ended up being really good marketing on their part, but really poor leather for belt making.
Mhm.
And after time, it just delaminated. It wasn't what I thought it was.
Okay.
And then something changed, and I started looking at these full sides because a side of Wicket and Craig is like $400. Like that's not cheap.
Crazy.
It's a lot of leather, but then I started pricing it per square foot, and I realized, like, my goodness, I'm spending more on some leather at Tandy, but this bridal leather, which is world renowned, and then so that's kind of like, they say you spend 1,000 hours doing something, or you make 1,000 of something, you'll start to become proficient at it. And I'm like, well, I've made the most belts. That's what I've done from the beginning, and that became my niche or my pocket. And part of me was really nervous about getting into wallets because I hate making mistakes. I hate,
like everybody, I think.
Yeah. I struggle being bad at things.
Mhm.
Like if I make a wallet and I'm not happy with it, I have to just try it again and again and again and again.
Yeah. It's a
And
perception.
I think I have to be personally content with it before I'm willing to even post it or offer them to people, right?
Yeah.
And it just, belts became what I was best at. I had made so many of them. That's, again, I had a lot of friends that looking to have like belts that were casual enough to wear with your jeans or even dress belts, but robust enough to carry the weight of a loaded pistol for work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the niche that I've fallen into, is making pleasing to look at, but also like robust, strong belts.
Functional, exactly. How many belts do you get out of a hide normally?
What's that?
How many belts do you get out of a full hide normally?
Out of a full hide?
Because I imagine you order full hides, no? Or just a shoulder or
yes. Yeah, like if you see, I've got some rolls up there, and then down here I have my larger hides that are too big to put on the shelf. They're all standing up. I buy everything by the full side because belt blanks are so expensive.
Yeah, it's good to start. I did it once, but of course with shipping, it's crazy if you just order a couple of them. But as well, yeah, it depends. It's an investment. If you buy a full hide, you say like it's $500, and you have to try to sell them all,
If I pay for a hide in three belts, 3 stitched belts, then it only makes sense for me to spend that money.
Yeah.
I can't, because I've done the math before. It's so hard to say for sure, because it varies from hide to hide, because sometimes you'll have weak spots in the middle.
That was a question as well, because on the edges, if you have a full hide, it's always waste.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the belly, because when you get to the belly, you notice where the fleshing gets rougher.
Yeah.
Because Wicket and Craig and Herman Oak have very, very good finished fleshing, so I don't need to line those belts.
Yeah.
But when it starts to get rougher, you can really feel it in the leather. You just, over time, which ones are good for belt making and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
And that bottom foot of the hide, almost sometimes you won't get too much, especially as it gets closer to the neck.
Yeah. It gets more wear as well. It's
yeah, absolutely. But I still keep all those scraps, because if I'm doing axe sheaths, which I've only ever done 2, but I'm a hoarder. Like, I don't throw any leather out, really. I've got piles of stuff behind me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it's hard too, because so with some belts, depending, I mean, here in North America, we're a little rounder than people in Europe, I think. So when it comes to belts, in one strip from the butt of the cow to the neck, sometimes I can get 2 belts.
Okay.
Sometimes I only get 1. Depends on size of the customers, right? But I keep all those cutoffs, because eventually I'll invest in a splitter and I'll split them down, and I'll be able to use them for key lanyards and tags and stuff like that. So trying to hold on to everything, because even those small pieces of leather are worth money, and the key, your longevity as a leather worker.
No, for me, it's a hard thing to. Of course, you want to keep everything. You don't want to waste everything or throw everything away. But sometimes you have cutoffs, and you think like, I really wish I could make like a key fob out of this still, but it just doesn't work, because you say as well the thickness is a little bit thinner, or that's a little bit sad. And how do you finish the insides of your belts? I don't know if you do like it's one full hide, right? So you always have the flesh side. So like if you have some rougher edges, let's say. Because I've seen actually, I the other day I got a wallet. Yeah, the other day I got a wallet from.
This is the flesh side on Wicket and Craig, and it's finished.
Okay.
Like it's finished quite well. Like and it wears really well, and over time it polishes. It doesn't hinder itself from.
Okay.
Because some people. Yeah, no. It's the parts where it gets flakier. Those are the parts where I recognize where it's not great for belt making, so I avoid those anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, say again.
You were saying you bought a wallet?
Yeah, no, I'm from Rustic Red's Leather. He's as well from Canada. He gave me with the Movember movement. I participated in his auction, and he sent me a wallet over, like a coin wallet. And I saw that the inside, the flesh side of the leather he used was like, it's like burnished, but I'm unaware on how he did it, because it's like super smooth. It has like a shiny feel, but I thought maybe you had an idea, because normally I asked him on the podcast as well, but he canceled because he got sick or something. I hope to get back to him as well. But
if I have something that's flesh side and it's unfinished, because I do try to line most of my stuff except for the bridle leather, because I have 2 to 3 ounce bridle leather in the Wicket and Craig, and there were times where if I wasn't paying attention, it's hard to tell the flesh side from the grain side. It's finished so well that it's really, I've never seen a leather finish that well. The only problem is if you're gluing.
Yeah.
Because it's so smooth that you have to rough it up, whereas with some you don't have to. I've used Gumtrag for some of my first belts. I used Gumtrag, and I have a long Cocobolo burnisher with a flat part, and I would just rub that flat.
It's like a glass piece, no? Similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that done, and that worked really well, just to give it that more finished look.
Yeah. All right. You have anything in the future? You say like you want to expand your business, or because now you're a police officer, do you ever have the how you say the idea to become fully leathercrafter, or it's still?
I want to. I do. I don't. I mean, I have a young son now, and after 12 years, I'm not sure how much longer I want to do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would like to eventually have a full-time leather business with a storefront, with a little shop and stuff like that. And that would be my goal.
Okay.
Of course, like, what's his name from Lithuania again? I don't know. I can't remember his name.
STR handmade.
Like he said, there's only so much you can do in a day. Like, if I start very early and go till later, if I'm doing really well, I can get 2 stitch belts done in a day.
Yeah.
So the costs of having a business storefront, the cost of having all that stuff, eventually it becomes, is it more or less cost effective to just run out of your garage, right?
Yeah.
That's.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to do this full time, because the aspect of working for myself, and
it's appealing. Yeah.
That pride in making nice things, because I love Christmas, because I was getting messages from people that are like, he loved this shaving bag, they loved their apron, they loved this, and that's been a lot of fun waiting for people's responses.
Exactly. And how do you experience the police work? I don't know, because of course there's a lot of things going on in general. Like, you still like it, like.
Well, it's complicated because I'm on medical leave right now for PTSD. So the question becomes, is, am I going back to work, or is this it for me? And having time away from it to think, because it's hard to explain, because when you're a police officer, it just innately becomes like, it's a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Like, after having had time off, I'm like, I kind of feel more normal now. Like, things are, but with everything else that's happening in the world, I'm like, I don't, it's not how I
intended to do it. Yeah.
No, like,
because I can
grew
imagine,
up.
If you're if you want to become a police officer, you want to, help service the people, and things like that.
And I grew up, my father's a police officer, so I kind of grew up in that lifestyle and that family. And I remember being a young kid, and my dad would take me for drives when he was working.
Yeah.
And I was there when my father arrested people.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And he would stand there, let them have a cigarette, and then go about his business, because that's just the kind of guy my dad is. And so that's how I, treat people with respect and just be kind when you can. And
of course,
I like to think I did that in my career. It's just, after a while, it becomes exhausting, whether you're nice or whether you're doing the right thing or not. Like, it's just, some people, I think, have more fortitude than I do, maybe, because to think about doing that for 30 years, I've spent most of my adult life doing it. And now that I'm doing this is the first time where I really, truly, like, maybe this is what I should do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be in that lifestyle, or that authoritarian, like, even if you're a good cop, you're still using your authority over people.
I would say controversy, look, and I think the year 2020, everything is allowed to be said, and everybody has a voice and everybody has an opinion. And I do remember, kind of like back in the day, they would say, like, people would have sincerely or like respect for a police officer. Like, I still remember me driving in my car when I was young, and if you would be stopped over by police, you would be, I'm not going to say scared, but you have that authority level. Sure. And I do see now it's a little bit, I'm a little bit sad for it, but it goes a little bit away, It
makes me sad too, seeing the erosion of trust between people and police, because there's still like I mean, I can't sit here and say that police officers are bad, because I still am one. Whether I return to work or not is separate, right? I can't say that, and I have so many friends that are such good police officers that have saved lives, that have done incredible things, you know. And it makes me really sad to see that erosion of trust. And I hope things change for the better.
You know, in every profession you have bad apples, you know, like, but it's the problem is, I think that it's because of social media, it's one of the professions who's been broadcasted the most, you know, and everybody has a cell phone. So as soon as something happens, just normally it's already out there, and it's
especially it's a job and a role where you're exerting your authority over people. So it's a job based on conflict and conflict resolution. And that there's always a need for it, but I just don't know if I can find myself in that role again. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I'm not sure if I have that in me to be that person anymore. Leather work, I think, has been like a saving grace in my life in the last 5 years, because it's been difficult dealing with whatever the stresses of the job and everything. And like, I finish sewing for a couple hours, and when I'm done, I finish my last stitch, and I'll look up and I'll be like, holy crap, I'm tired. Exactly. And I'll just go to bed. Because it allows me to turn my brain off and get satisfaction from what I'm doing. Policing is such a different thing, because there's no end. Your job, everything's waiting. It's just you don't get that same. You can help someone, but that's such a rare thing. And
I do see to a lot of people the leather crafting is like a type of meditation, and I do see it as well with me, to be honest. Like I said, I worked 9 years as a car mechanic, and I kind of rolled in it as well, and it was expected of me, let's say, to do that, and you just get in this routine, and you get used to it, and you say, okay, it's okay, you know, I'm fine with it, but it's really good to try to really listen to your heart, you know, and really believe like okay, this is something I want to do, and maybe this is not for me, you know, and I'm seeking as well a lot I never thought I would be sitting on a table sewing with my hands, you know. It seems so strange to me, but it calms me down so much as well, and it's like you say, you know, if you get the appreciation of spending, let's say, 5 hours on something, and then you really see people, you know, sending videos and pictures and being sincerely happy, you know.
It's a great feeling, because I always, it's a strange thought I have sometimes, because I'll think, how many pants are my belts holding up?
Exactly.
And that's something that makes me happy. How many pants today am I responsible for people being able to keep high and tight? It's just a strange, simple thing that makes me happy.
True.
Because to have people that are proud of owning my products, my things that I've crafted, like, it's a meticulous hobby with a lot of reward if you put that time into it. And Alan Watts is one of my favorite more modern philosophers, and he has that idea, like, if you're unhappy, then find something that makes you happy.
Exactly.
If you have a skill, if you have something you're good at and you enjoy it, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a skill and you enjoy it, then find a way to monetize that, because you will. Because there's a consumer for everything,
for sure,
for anything you can think to do. And if you have something you're good at with your hands, then just create the product and then work at it. The last year for me has been an incredible period of growth, because it's encouraged me to work harder, to develop my skills, and to constantly to post those things. And if people see them, you're inevitably going to attract more customers.
Snowball effect, you know.
Yeah.
I need to say as well, like, COVID for me, you hear a lot of people, you know, everybody has their opinion, of course, but I must say, in a way, COVID has been some kind of blessing for me, because of course I didn't get sick, and I don't know people who got sick, but it gave me time to really think and to really look at my life and really like make a change in my path, you know, and really try to focus on the things you really love.
I'm sure COVID in some ways has affected us as leather workers, especially when it comes to shipping.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if your shop is home and if you work by yourself, you're still here. You still have your product. You still have your leather, and that's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly. And I see as well a lot of people, they appreciate it more to spend some more time with family, you know, with the wife, with the children. It's just makes more sense, you know.
Yep.
Because actually you never know. Tomorrow something else can happen and governments shut the whole country down and it's done, you know. It's a waking call, I think, in a way.
That you can always do leather work in your kitchen.
Exactly. Or in your backyard too, for sure. And do you have any advice? I don't know, advice you would give to people who want to start? You know,
ask questions. Find everybody has. You look at the leather you like and that you want to produce, and think, how am I going to get there? And then you just start talking to people. When my wife bought me those first basic tools from Candy, in when I was living in a small town, I thought, well, this is a small rural Alberta town. There's some strong craftsmen here. So I asked around and I said, do you know anyone that doesn't? Do you know anyone that doesn't? And then eventually I ended up meeting a really talented, he does primarily saddle work and upholstery, which are two things that I will probably never get into.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of good insight.
And saddle work is like for the horses, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah. He did a lot of saddles for horses, incredibly talented upholsterer. And he would just put me to work ripping stitches out of old truck seats, because then he would rebuild them. And he was kind of like, did you ever watch Karate Kid?
Yeah.
Like it was a lot of like wax on, wax off. He would teach me philosophies of leatherwork. I didn't learn a ton of actual leatherwork, but he taught me a lot of good ideas and kind of philosophies about the craft, about, you know, having a strong brand, but also being a strong craftsman, that at the end of the day, your mark goes on everything you make. Everything you make goes to a person, and that directly represents you as a person in theory, and making sure that you do your best to provide the best products. And if it's not,
don't ship it.
Yeah. And also striving for better. You'll never find perfection, but find those people that influence you. Like I said, Nigel Armitage was a big one for me. He basically, for me, wrote the Bible on belt making. And he offers that, and I learned a ton from him, and Instagram as well. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and
just go for it, I guess.
That's really all you can do.
Yeah,
you can be as careful, or if you're fortunate enough to have a second occupation, you can use some of that in the beginning to filter into your work. That's probably the most efficient way to get a start.
Yeah,
because I tried really hard to, when I had a few $100s extra, I would buy a new punch, or I would buy a new this or a new that. And it took, years. It took me till now to have this collection of tools that I've paid for with my hobby. But it's still growth, and it's still,
that's how it goes.
Yeah. If you grow as a craftsman, you'll grow as a business.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of did it controversy. I think, like, you hear the most people, like STR Handmade as well. He said, do it as a side job and slowly grow. And that just it makes most sense, because you have security of your stable job and you can slowly explore. But in a way, I made some changes in my life, like really trying to do the things I love, and I decided to just take a leap of faith, I guess, and just go for it, and of course in other ways you need to let down on some extra expenses, like not buying gifts or not going out for dinner or whatever. But in a way it forces you as well to create, and I've remembered the first weeks I worked on leathercrafting, that I spent nights trying to fix my mistakes and do it again, and it forces you more to become better or to grow faster, I guess.
I I completely agree. There's risk involved with anything. But I think people are naturally like, if it's what you want, then people are survivors, right? And if your leatherwork is what you need to do to survive, then you'll market that leatherwork whatever way you need. And it's like the conversation about, do you supply your products to stores? Because it's not as hard as you might think to get your leatherwork in a shop if there's a variety of, because even I was in a very small town and they were carrying, the hunting shop carried my rifle slings and the only men's store carried my belts.
Exactly.
So, and there was only one hunting shop and there was only one men's clothing store, but it can be done. And it's a way to develop your skills. And again, you will sell things. But I mean, like STR Handmade said, he's like, I don't have time to stockpile items, so why would I take time to supply other stores? But if that's what you need to do until your brand spreads and grows, and if that's one of the choices you need to make, it's always an option. There's lots of ways to market your leatherwork.
Yeah, it's good. You see a lot of people, they have their different methods. You know, like STR Handmade, he said, I'm never going to make a stock. I'm never going to make custom designs. I just make my wallets, and he's fortunate enough, just like you, I guess, that people are interested in the products he makes, and he just goes, you know. And for me, I started making some wallet designs, and I see, for me in Belgium, it's not really that popular, the wallets. People are still more holding on to the traditional, the bifolds and those things. But I get more, you know, custom orders then, like mostly females, of course, because they are, I think, in Europe, more connected with the leather. And yeah, it's good. Everybody has its own ideas, and everybody, you know, follows his own path, I guess. So that's really
that's another aspect too, as you mentioned, custom work. And custom work can be trying, because there's, especially some of the work I've done, there's a lot of design that goes into it. Like the first blacksmith apron I did, that took me probably a week or two even to design it to a point where I was satisfied with it, to figure out how I was going to craft it and put it all together. But now that's something that I can make. And then more recently I did a canvas apron, which I was pleased with. And the custom work, you don't have to stick with it forever. And it doesn't always have, you can always say no, but it pushes the problem solving parts of your brain more, because I can make a belt with my eyes closed.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's something I've done a few hundred times now, so it's not that complicated. So it's nice sometimes to get a project which really pushes your skills and your problem solving abilities.
That's as well, I think, with custom orders, it's, of course, if you make 100 belts, you know what your pricing is, you know how much time you spend on it. So everything is scheduled. But I think if you have like a custom order, I know this for myself, it's really difficult to put in a good price on it. I know this all the time. Mostly you underprice it a little bit, because you say, okay, I guess I'm going to spend 6-7 hours on it, but of course you always spend more time on it, you know. And it's but in the other hand, you get more skills, you know, you get more, like I say, creativity. And
you have to go out and look for the information to learn about what are you going to do. Like I had to learn to use a sewing machine a few weeks ago, which I never thought I would do. You know, there's always something new that can be done, and it doesn't have to be custom work all the time, because I could see sometimes it's nice for, I call it a palate cleanser, just to reset my brain. So then I'll like, oh, that belt that I have to do, I'll do that now, just to get my brain into the right mode.
How do you do? Because you say, like, with your belts, do you, like, if a person orders a belt, do you have like a time limit? You say, okay, I'm finishing it and then, or do you say everything goes in order, and when it's done, and I will notice you when it's done?
If I get, so I have a wallet that I need to do for midsummer. I have another wallet I need to do, but those are dates for like birthdays. I have some for weddings. So for those, I know I have a deadline for those. But if say I think I only have one belt to do right now. And it's the holidays, so I'm spending more time inside with the family. But if I typically, like, I just got an order for another shave bag, so I'll do that shave bag as soon as I can. So I try to, it's basically when your order comes in, you have priority, like whoever's ahead of you will get done first. But then I also have my diary dates for weddings, for stuff like that. So if those people can wait a few months, then that might be better for me to do that for them because they don't need it right away. It's a gift of some type, right?
Yeah.
But I try to make that clear with people that you might wait a few minutes while I process other orders, but you will get your item before you need it.
For sure.
Just being honest with your customers about waiting and stuff like that. But typically with something like a belt, I'll try to have a turnaround of less than a week to 2 weeks.
Okay.
Sometimes I get it done within 2 days, but it all depends on what's happening.
Yeah. And you ship mostly to America, I guess, or you have customers in Europe as well?
Almost exclusively Canada. I have made, I think, 2 belts for Americans. And that's been it. This last Christmas has been insane for me. Like those shave bags that I make, I want to do something new. So I bought the pattern from Tandy. I bought some leather, and I made the shave bags just because I needed to do something different. Mm-hmm. And they sat there for a long time. Those shave bags sat on my shelf for a month or 2. Mm-hmm. And then Christmas rolls around. I ended up making like 20 of them.
Wow.
So now I'm thinking maybe I'll stockpile those. So come busy seasons, I'll have some ready to go.
Makes sense.
But I've had some interest from the States in the shave bags. But I think with the way shipping has been, I'm not able to guarantee people that they're going to get it within a month.
Yeah.
I mailed bags to the other side of Canada because I'm a small business. I have 3-day shipping, and it took 16 days.
Wow.
To get it across Canada. So
crazy. Yeah.
But I'm hoping to grow my business within America as well. But there are so many talented craftsmen.
Yeah.
In Canada, in the States. And really all you can do is stick with your style, mm-hmm. which like I went on Instagram and I was looking through belts, I hashtag belt, and I seen one. I was like, "Oh, that looks familiar." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's mine." Someone reposted one of my pictures. So like, it comes to a point where if I see your stuff on Instagram, I know it's yours. Like Night Hair and Leather. Every time I see one of his little wrap wallets, I know what's his.
Yeah.
You recognize other makers by the colors, the leather, the pictures.
As well. Everybody has its style. Yeah.
Yeah. Stick with what's your style. Find what you like. And there's going to be people out there that are going to prefer what you're doing. Because although I love Flatlander Supply, although I love some of the other makers out there and their colors, there's still, especially the older generation, there's not too many people buying yellow wallets that are over 40, I think.
Imagine that.
But he clearly has a younger market, and that works really well for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just stay true to your brand and make what you think is cool.
Fair enough. It's good. I mean, you don't need to, if you can live off it, you don't need to go crazy. You know?
Yeah.
You have other people you think of, you want to maybe see in the future on the podcast? Like,
oh, geez. Well, I mean, there's guys like, I mean, Ben Abbott, John Brady, Leather, High Grain Design.
He's the one with the wallet, right? High Grain, if I remember, with the...
I think so, yeah. But John Brady has done some stuff with Shell Cordovan, like hand-dyed Shell Cordovan designs, like stuff that I can't even explain how he does it.
Yeah.
His wallet shells look like outer space. I don't know how he does it, but like incredible work. That's another skill. I'm like, the way people dye things. I'm like, I used to take a sponge, rub the dye around, and
I've seen people do like the splatter paint.
Yeah,
As well. It's so creative.
It's so hard to say because there's so many. Another one, I think he's overseas, Cutter Leather. He does a lot of work with Pueblo. I forget where he is overseas. He might be Swedish. But there's so many because I follow something like 500 people, and so many of them are incredible craftsmen.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of good ones.
Exactly. You have it's like almost the end, I guess. It's like, I call it the freedom of speech moment. I don't know if you want to share something, doesn't matter what. It's up to you. If you want to promote the brand or,
If you're a long-time crafter or a new crafter, just make things. Make something.
Mm-hmm.
Do something. Like, people are designed to craft. People are designed to. We have these little monkey brains that need to poke things with sticks. So just find something and make it. Find yourself a space. Like, this is a canvas shack in my garage. It's not insulated. It's 5 degrees Celsius out here right now.
You're sitting in a t-shirt, imagine.
It's a Canadian thing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and that's 5 degrees is warm for some days.
For sure, I want to visit Canada someday when it's possible.
If you're ever in Alberta, I mean, I might be moving back to New Brunswick on the East Coast someday. But if you're ever coming to Canada, drop me a line, and if I'm in the area, it'd be great to meet up.
For sure, man.
Yeah, just make stuff. Get good at something. Find something that makes you happy, because even if there's one area of your life where you're your own boss, where you can sit there and knit, crochet, sew, quilt, just do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's good.
All right. Actually, I was going to say it in the beginning, but I might as well say it now. Your last name, it reminds me so much of the Matrix, so I kind of wanted to say Mr. Anderson. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want to just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
It's a really good way to how we say, like, connect the people even more, and to give some feedback, give some insights in the backstories of people. I think it's important to have, like, to see a little bit who's the person behind RoarHideGoods, or it's.
I think it's interesting because what you're doing is on YouTube. You're posting on an Instagram. You're reaching across international boundaries. You're reaching across age groups and styles of leatherwork and follower counts. Like, I mean, from I forget his name again, and this is terrible.
Thomas from STR. Yeah.
From Thomas to me, like, I mean, huge difference obviously in followers, and I don't know, it's really interesting because I watched that last podcast and I just nerded out the whole time. It was super interesting to listen to people discuss things that I think my wife can only listen to so much of me talking about leather. She doesn't care that much.
That's actually really good to hear, because of course I'm only a rookie in this, I guess, but I do have a lot of motivation, and I do want to try to, like you say, cross the boundaries of countries, and it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 followers or 3. Everybody has its own skills, and it's really nice to know that people actually listen to it, and get some feedback from it, because in the end, that's what I do it for, to give some extras, and there we go.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
I wish you the best for 2021.
Well.
And
thank you again very much for the invite, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Peace.